Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble,
Symbol.
Volume 240. Well, Brent, are you Kraven more Kraven?
No.
Well, there's our review, ladies and gentlemen.
I am ready to talk about Kraven.
We hope you enjoyed our review about it. It's our shortest episode ever. Congratulations, we made it to this point.
I am ready to talk about Kraven, though. How about that?
I am ready to talk about Kraven. I'm excited to talk about Kraven and all the interesting things I have to say about it. But if you can hear my voice, I am not doing too well right now. I've been battling a head cold since. If you caught the vodka stream last week, I did not last too long on that. I had a throbbing head. Luckily, the throbbing head is gone, but the sniffles, the coughing, the achiness is still there. It's been a very long week of work, but I'm here, and I'm here to do this for the people. I saw Kraven so that you didn't have to, and because again, I love you. I love our audience so much that I'm willing to put my money and my feelings about products and Sony aside to help you, the fans. You know, again, I like being hyperbolic because it's fun and it makes me laugh. And
I guess I did technically put money down for it. I used one of my A-list reservations, but I would have had A-list regardless. I'm probably going to use it to go see another movie this weekend. We're probably taking my son to see Moana this weekend, which I'm expecting to be a little bit better movie. I did have popcorn. I had popcorn, so that cost me a few bucks. But
we saw Moana last Sunday with the kids and quite enjoyed it. So who do we got in the chat? We got David in the chat.
David in the chat.
Kraven this week's podcast. Yeah, you are Kraven this week's podcast. Very good play on words. So all right, well, we've got a movie to discuss. Let's get these show plugs out of the way, shouldn't we, Brent?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 6 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. Our $1 tier is our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job, and then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows. We, Marvel Alliance, have 2 shows on Patreon. We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga Rewatch, where we watched every single movie in chronological order, not release order, for the Infinity Saga. And then we just recently wrapped up our other show, Tales from the House of X, where we watched our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men, Deadpool 2, The Wolverine, Logan, X-Men, X2, X-Men First Class, and X-Men Days of Future Past. So those shows are up there, along with DC Alliance, doing their DC films through the years. Joe with his Multiverse Minutes, looking at his Disney dives, the 1st and the 15th. He releases a new episode looking at the, in chronological order, the theatrical releases of Disney animation. So a lot of back content out there. We want to thank our patrons. We cannot do this without your support. But if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA Network to get all that lovely content. But if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. But if you take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got going along with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. We've got about 5 more days to lock in your pre-order prices for these lovely Epic collections that are going on. We've got Ultimate Spider-Man in Epic Collection for the first time. We've got X-Men Onslaught Aftermath, first time ever in print. Got Star Wars The Rebellion Omnibus. We got Marvel 2-in-1 Omnibus, first time in print. And Brandon Mine's pick for this one, Spider-Man by Michelini and Bagley Omnibus Volume 2.
Oh, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a Spider-Man and Hulk cover there, too.
Yep, that would be the direct market cover. Actually, no, that's the standard cover. That is the one I didn't order. I ordered this one because it's just so much goodness going on.
I have that comic with that Spider-Man and Hulk cover. I have that physical copy.
Yep. So, yep, from maximum carnage to the shocking truth about Peter Parker's parents.
Ooh, I know what it is. I know what it is.
Yes, so use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. That you can use it a limited amount of times, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right, before we get into this, I'm going to turn the show over to Brent because he has an announcement to make that he's going to need to share with the audience.
Yeah, a bit of a programming note. I, for lack of a better term, am going to go on a bit of a sabbatical, if you will. I don't know when the end of that sabbatical will be. Basically, nothing bad, but I got some stuff personal life wise that I need to take care of, and it really needs to happen on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings for the most part, which kind of takes me out of recording for this. But regardless, we've got an excellent choice coming in. You know, when we talked about this, Chris, you said, you know, talk to this person first. And David is going to be joining the show on a regular basis now. Starting next week, you'll get to listen to David's sultry tones every week, talking a little bit of Marvel with you. And that's great because I talk Marvel with him at work almost every single day. And he is every bit as big of a Marvel fan as I am, and even more in some cases, probably. And so I am looking forward to getting to be a listener. I will miss being on the show, but it's not meant to be a permanent thing. So I'll be back eventually. We just don't have a timeline on that just yet. But I will be honest, I am looking forward to listening to you and David starting next week.
Yes, no, and we want to make that very clear. Brent is not permanently leaving the show. And during his sabbatical, I have also reminded him that he is welcome to come on if he has those random Thursday nights where they work out for his schedule. Yeah. Again, we do have that. There might be an opening for. We're gonna have to revisit the predictions. You know, we might get you back for the predictions at that point. But yeah, so the door's open. Again, there is no timetable. Brent's still going to be on the socials at that point. But please, please, when Brent is ready to come back, he will come back. Please do not bug him. Leave him alone during his time. So
I mean,
you can ask, but
I don't know what it's called. I was going to say you can tweet at me, but I'm barely touching Twitter
He's
anymore.
blue skying it.
And so whatever they call it on Blue Sky, you can blue sky me where I'm at Brentac, or I think it's technically at brentac.com. Yeah. Because I put it on my own domain. But so just that little announcement. So I appreciate the understanding. And I think with that we are ready to move on to what's next.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having it on. He's been on the show. We podcasted together. He's done podcasts with you. I remember, I think his biggest one he came on was taking over for me for the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review. So he's great. And if you listen to Geekverse, he's with the gimmick with Snell, who's also on his current paternity leave, but he's continuing that with S-Bubs over there. So he's gone into his own podcasting forum. So I'm looking forward to it. But
yeah, for sure.
Sad to be without you for a little bit, buddy. But I know that, like I said, when you're ready to come back, you will be coming back. So
perfect.
Awesome. So, all right. Moving on from that, Kraven the Hunter is out. What is Remember, we only got one MCU movie. Sony decided to slam us with all theirs, and we are closing out Sony's current universe at that point.
You know what? Hot take. I'm glad Sony dumped them all this year. Just rip the Band-Aid, pull them out, get them out of here.
Yep.
Non-spoiler, here's the thing. I was mildly entertained at points. I thought the movie was fine, which if you've heard the Morbius review, that's pretty much how I described that movie. I don't think it was the dumpster fire that some of the reviews have said it was. It's certainly not a good movie, don't get me wrong, but I went in with such low expectations that I was actually able to, at times, be like, oh, wow, this part was kind of cool. I kind of enjoyed that a little bit. Other times I was like, wow, that was actually dumber. They still managed to go below them a couple times. But on the whole, the movie was fine. Do you need to rush out and see it if you've never seen it? Absolutely not. If you're really curious, save your money. Wait for it to come to streaming because it's from Sony. I think it comes to Netflix if I
It
remember right
will.
first.
Yeah.
So just wait for it to hit Netflix and just wait. Just wait. But that said, it did have some cool bits in it.
Yeah, I will slightly echo some of Brent's. I joke with him with we get I get very, as I said earlier, very hyperbolic about this because it makes me laugh. I knew going into this movie what this was going to be. All right, I did not kid myself to saying, "Oh my God, Craven's going to be the best movie ever." No, I knew the trailers made it very clear what this was going to be. Did it do what it needed to do for what it was going to be? At points, yes. Many other points, no, it fell, and it fell hard, in my opinion, that I wasn't expecting Craven to be an Oscar worthy movie. I was expecting it, and I want it to be a good movie. And if you really like Craven, great. That's awesome. I'm not here to poo poo on I'm not here to yuck your yum. All right? That is not what I'm here to do. I just said what I saw was continuing the trend of what I saw in the Sony universe of villain movies. Poor writing, an occasional good couple of action sequences that were okay, poor CGI, and some very cringeworthy moments that's just like, oh, really? And questionable character development, like saying, and why are you here again? What are you serving? And what I think this movie really was for a lot of them, it's called Paycheck.
Oh, sure. A paycheck, fulfilling a contract
Yeah.
obligation, something like that.
Uh,
I want to ask, did you see the ADR or catch the ADR issues?
oh my gosh, it was so
Because I've
bad.
heard people talking
Yeah.
about it, and with the exceptions of when Aaron Taylor Johnson was,
Yeah.
quote unquote, speaking Russian, I haven't really noticed him throughout the rest of the movie. And
Yeah.
so, like, that's really the only time I really noticed it. And I kind of forgive it because he's speaking a completely different language that, as far as I know, he doesn't know.
Yeah. I noticed it, and it definitely took me out of it at points. There were a lot of different points. It wasn't throughout the movie, but when I noticed it, it was like it was bad. And I also want to say this: people who think, oh, they set out to make a bad movie. No, they don't set out to make a bad movie.
No, they
The
don't.
director has gone out, and I applaud J.C. Chandler for praising the hard work that this crew did. He is not necessarily someone that's realizing that it hurts at that point that this movie reeks of executive interference. This movie just doesn't seem like a passion movie, and it goes into what all the games saying. Like, why did J.C. Chandler, Famous for Margin Call, which is an awesome movie, Most Violent Year, All Is Lost, subject himself to Craven? He's better than that. He's a writer director who's written all his previous movies, so should at least been allowed to write this movie instead of the hack duo of Art Mackham and Matt Holloway. Warzone, Transformers Last Night, Men in Black International, Uncharted, Craven. Um, Venom Legendary Carnage on Rotten Tomatoes Metacritic is now the best reviewed of the six films Sony. Like I said, I'll re-say what I said all in the game. This wasn't his movie. This absolutely was not his movie. I think he had some input on it. I think, yes, when it comes down to it, he got some of his say into it, but this reeked of a lot of, hey, this worked in this movie. We need to put this in. You need to put this in. This I wouldn't say this is a movie written by Reddit, because I've seen better movies written by Reddit, but this this wasn't a movie for him. This wasn't his thing. He tried. He did his best with what was given to him. And I'd like to say Aaron Taylor Johnson is probably one of the better parts of this movie.
Yeah, I really wouldn't say he's the faults I have with the movie. I really wouldn't put on him.
Yeah.
It is more really it's more writing, directing. That's probably where I would put it for the most part. The actual actors, actresses in the movie, for the most part, I was fine with.
Yeah. I think I hate if this is going to put him in director jail for a while. I don't want to see that happen because I agree with you. He is a much better director and a writer. And to your point, why did they let him do this? Because Sony has made poor decision after poor decision with who they chose as writers. Period. That's that. I mean, it's look at the track record. It's been bad.
it does continue the trend of Sony making early.
Nope, we lost Brent's audio.
All right.
Currently fixing it. There we go. All right.
Don't know why, but regardless, it does continue the trend of Sony making early 2000s movies. Like every one of these movies, if they came out 20 plus years ago, we would have thought, oh, that's really cool. You know, it's not just like the comics, but they got a lot of it in there.
Yeah.
Comic books, the comic book movie industry, or part of the movie industry, has been elevated since the early 2000s movies, right? Like we're not getting away with those kind anymore on a regular basis. And that's, for whatever reason, that seems to be what Sony keeps wanting. They say, give us Ghost Rider, you know, give us Fantastic Four, give us Elektra, instead of giving us Spider-Verse, which, hey, that also came from Sony, and I still am blown away at the differences. It's like they can take the reception that the Spider-Verse movies got, you know, the first one won an Oscar, and then they get the reception that all of these got, and they just put them out there. And I get the Venom movies, right? Like, the Venom movies, whatever, they're making money, so I get it from a business standpoint. They're not making money on Madam Web. They're not making money on It's Morbin Time. And they're not really making money on this.
There was an opportunity. There was an opportunity with all three of them that they could have, and it starts with your writers.
Yeah.
If you can't write if the movie is not written well, then nobody's going to see it.
I mean, I still think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of the Kraven character, where, yes, he is about the hunt, but it's not about hunting people, right? He's not Green Arrow on the Arrow show hunting people, crossing names off of the list. Small spoiler, I guess. He's hunting. He wants to hunt the big game, animals, whatever the biggest target is. That's why he goes after Spider-Man to begin with, because the spider is the biggest creature for him to hunt.
Yes. So, all right, let's get over that spoiler wall. So let's take our first ad break for the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. Give you that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, Brent. So I know we usually typically divide this up into acts. I'm gonna be saying we're gonna jump around characters, whatever we feel, because at this point, for a split second, when the movie opens, I hear a theme. I hear singing. I know this song that they're singing. I know a certain very good movie this is from. I said, wait a minute. Am I in The Hunt for Red October? Nope. I'm in Kraven at that point. They're using the opening song from The Hunt for Red October in this movie. And I was like, all right. That's what kind of movie we're getting into. Let's do this. All right.
Yep.
So, and okay. I'm okay with how opening up in a prison sequence to kind of establish where we are as, you know, who Kraven is at this time. And I said, okay, we're obviously going to go back in time. We're going to do one of those kind of openings. Cliche, been done before, still don't hate it, you know?
No, don't hate it. And I know what I had just said before the break about he's not crossing names off a list. Wait, that is literally what that is his goal. He is effectively doing what Oliver Queen was doing on the Arrow TV show. But okay, do I think that aspect is dumb? Yes, I do. Let's take the premise and go for it. This opening sequence I thought was actually pretty cool. For the most part, I thought it was pretty cool. One, I was entertained by his conversation with his cellmate about how his cellmate wanted to just attack him then, and he talked him into giving him 3 days. Said, give me 3 days or I'm out. If not, you can have your shot. And, you know, it was like 3 hours or whatever. It was the next day, I think. I was entertained by that. The action when he finally starts like fighting people, for the most part, I liked it. The parkour stuff, okay, most of the parkour stuff was fine with me. I didn't really get all of the running on all fours when he was using his hands and legs. I really didn't get all that. Like, I'm like, is that really faster than the way? Because it looked like whenever he did that, he wasn't moving faster than when he just sprinted on his legs.
That said to me, hey, if he's got animal abilities, let's make him acting like cool like animal. And And yeah, I get it, but that also got into the whole thing where CG started getting kind of wonky.
Yeah, there was definitely. I mentioned the parkour was kind of cool. It was, but there was definitely some wonkiness in the middle of in some of that, and you're like, oh, yep, that bit they didn't quite finish. But if he's supposed to have this, and you said we're going to jump around, so I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah,
here.
go ahead, jump around. Yeah,
If he's supposed to have these animal type powers, partially from this potion that he got from Calypso, partially from this. God, I can't believe I have to say this.
Wait a minute, what's her name again?
Calypso.
Are you sure? I need to know what her.
Calypso, Calypso.
Okay.
Yeah, they said it several times. That's not the word that bugged me. For me, it was the word hunt or variations of hunt. Hunter, hunted, hunting. No, so he gets this potion from Calypso. That's part of his powers.
Mixed with that tiger blood, so they've obviously a big fan of Charlie Sheen.
Right. It was a lion, but as
lion blood. Sorry, lion.
This lion mauled him. A drop of blood falls directly into one of his wounds with a little bit of splash, of course.
And he becomes DC's Animal Man.
And yeah, you get the kind of like early 2000s think when Peter Parker in the first Tobey movie was bit by the spider bite, and it like you see it like go into him and change his body. You get sort of something like that. But again, it's 20 years later. Let's show me something different.
But it also occasionally can be, he has Aquaman abilities and Animal Man abilities to occasionally sometimes communicate.
It sure seemed like he was communicating with them. But so if he's supposed to have these animal inspired powers, he never acted like an animal. He wasn't like growling and grunting at people and things like that. I mean, in the middle of a fight, but it's not the same. It's not like he sharpened his teeth. Yeah. So he still had resources to move all around the world and stuff like that somehow, even though he exiled himself from his father, so he grew up on his own in the jungle.
Yeah. How about his dad saying, "Yeah, your mom killed herself, so what I'm gonna do is take you out of school and we're gonna go on a big hunt. That's what's gonna help.
We're gonna go on a big hunt."
We already know he's not supposed to be Dad of the Year, played by Russell Crowe at that point, but I can at least say this: Russell Crowe again is having fun doing what he's doing.
I can't complain about Russell Crowe. I can't.
He knew the assignment.
Yes, I would agree with that. He played his part well, and I thought he was probably the best written character overall. Pretty one note there. I mean, there's no more than one note in this movie, but when Kraven was chasing somebody or being chased and fighting, I was like, okay, I kind of like these sequences. I kind of like. But it's how we got to those points. All the stuff in between every action scene was just bad.
Yeah, I mean, it would start off with, okay, I'm here with you. The action sequence would start off, like I said, okay, cool. We're getting a little, not feeling, oh, wow, okay, all right, just go be Sony now. All right.
When he escapes from the prison, he goes in and he kills this like mob boss or whatever. And when he escapes from this prison, did I miss something? Like he runs through this blizzard. Okay, fine, I get it. And he goes to a plane. He clearly had somebody waiting for him to pick him up. That he knew. Well, one, was that person just sitting out there for 2 days? But did I miss who that person was? Because we see her 2 or 3 other times. Did they ever say who it was?
No, I don't think they did. And it brings me to the other point when we get to Calypso. It's just like, seriously, what was her role in this whole thing? I mean, I know where we get to, like, we flash forward outside of being the MacGuffin who gives him the abilities to come back to life. Then we flash forward to now she's working at a law firm who is kind of his oracle to work with him to continue finding these people for his hit list at that point. And then she kind of, when we go even further into the movie, when they have that sequence at his hideout place when he gets attacked, then we never see her again. I don't know what her purpose was, and they never even tried to say, like, okay, maybe he's gonna be the love interest. They never even tried to do that. So again, please tell me what Calypso part. And she is so much of a better actress. She has done some amazing parts, and her agent or whoever got her into this movie needs to be seriously flogged, because this was not a good showing. She's a much better actress than what was given to her.
if you look her up in the comics, one, her character looked nothing like the comics, and that's probably for the
Correct.
best because her costume is not good in the comics either.
Exactly. All in the games got it. Oscar winner.
But they didn't really do much with her. They, as a kid, they had her, and for the record, the flashbacks overall, I was fine with. Like, they didn't bother me. I was fine with them. Like, we got the little origin, okay. And I thought the kid who played young Kraven and the kid who did young Dimitri did a pretty good job. Young Calypso, I thought, did a pretty good job for the few minutes of screen time she had. But Calypso, as an adult, why would she trust this guy? He shows up at the funeral of her friend, says that he murdered the person who killed her friend. Okay, I kind of get where she would look past that one. But as soon as he starts saying, there's other people, we can go, you can find them and I can kill them. That's a red flag. That's call the authorities. You know,
Yeah.
that's you're calling the police on this one.
Thank you on the game. Blame my cold brain. Yes, Ariane Du Bois at that point, Oscar winner. And you're right. Like, doesn't look like in the comics. Doesn't have anything to do really related to what was in the comics outside of name only. You know, I don't know what she was serving outside of just being in this movie and just
Her entire point was to give him the potion as a young kid, and then when he gets beat down by the foreigner and as an adult, to give him the potion again, and also shoot that arrow right through the foreigner's eye. Like, that was the entire purpose of her character.
So what you're basically telling me, that could have been any sidekick kind of character that just happened to be there. It didn't have to be this person.
Right. Like, Dimitri could have been on the run when she shot the foreigner, and he could have been the one to hit the foreigner or something like.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
now Dimitri's
you're right.
character
Could have been
makes,
Dimitri, yeah.
he makes more sense to be in it, because for those who didn't pick up on it or don't know, and you're just listening to this, but you're not going to see the movie anytime soon, Dimitri is Kraven's brother, and he grows up to become the spider villain, the Chameleon. And they did allude to it several times throughout the movie, most notably with his vocal impressions, which he did a remarkable job of, considering that was all really poor ADR. I didn't get most of it, but I did catch that now that I think about it. But I kind of get it, because they wanted him to sound exactly like his father, or exactly like whoever he was imitating.
Yeah, they weren't being that. They were dropping some hard hints like, "Hey, you're sounding like this. It's such a chameleon." It's like, oh,
yeah, I mean, he
God.
flat out says it at one point. And you know what? Just to stick with it, at the very end of the movie, he has achieved those powers. Dimitri has achieved those powers. But we do get a chameleon glimpse, and I actually kind of liked it.
It wasn't bad. It actually was not bad. Then I said, "Oh, okay, we did well with that. Too bad we won't see it again."
Yeah, if they were to use that with a Spider-Man in the future, I'd be okay with that. I would be okay with that. Now, you know what? Last week I said the Rhino was something I was really looking forward to seeing. He was a character that, outside of the Paul Giamatti mech version at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2 for a couple minutes, we hadn't truly seen a Rhino on screen in live action, right? Like a real one. We now have. Whenever he was in his human form, which he basically controlled by IV some serum into the side of his
like he's got some sort of disease that he's trying to keep at bay.
Yeah, and if he would pull it, he would slowly start to Hulk out effectively, and his Rhino skin would morph over his regular skin. He would get bigger, he would get muscles. We saw it 2 or 3 times throughout the movie. We didn't, and I said, that's something I was really looking forward to. So watch us only actually get the full Rhino for a couple minutes at the end. That's pretty much what happened.
That's pretty much what we got.
I was okay with how he looked. Little low budget, sure,
but it did a better job than what we've seen, and it sets a blueprint for if they want to do it again.
It was the Rhino, and I did enjoy the fight between the Rhino and Kraven. It's a little convenient that the Rhino had this hole on the side of him, this port that he uses to turn back into his human form, but ultimately, I was okay with I wish the Rhino had been in the movie as the Rhino a little bit more, but it wasn't about him. I understand that. It was cool to see a live action version of the Rhino that I actually felt like, for the most part, kept true to who the character was. But now, Chris, how did the Rhino get his powers?
Well, when we are in the past and he gets slighted by Kraven's father, at that point, he explains that he signed up for genetic experimentation with a New York professor named Miles Warren.
Miles Warren.
And what's a little excruciating pain compared to the tenfold increase in strength, scientist is unseen. This is not the last time he's going to be mentioned in film, because Dimitri also mentions it in the film as well. Miles Warren, in the comics, is the Jackal.
Yes.
And the Jackal is one of Brent's favorite villains because it involves one of his favorite kinds of things in Spider-Man.
He really is like one of my, like, I like it when the Jackal shows up because of what it means they're talking about. The Jackal is all about clones. Mm-hmm. He was in love with Gwen Stacy. He cloned her. He's the guy, but the Jackal's the villain behind the Clone Saga. He's the one that created Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. He created Kane. He created Spider-Side, who is so gloriously 90s. So gloriously 90s. If you don't know who Spider-Side is, look it up. It's ridiculous. But so that's the Jackal. Like, it's fine. They're using a name, a mad scientist. Okay. I just was like, no, give me some sort of clone reference, Give me, just throw me a bone. I can't really knock the movie for that, but I still wish they had picked someone else just because of it. And it almost would have made more sense if they had picked Kirk Connors or someone else is experimenting with animals than the Jackal. But yes, the Rhino calls him by name. Later, Dimitri just says, there's this doctor in New York that I know about. Well, you know about him because the supervillain who kidnapped you is the one who told you about him.
Yeah, and it's interesting in the sense, like I said, I thought it was very cool how we got to see the kind of chameleon take full effect at that point. And I won't lie, I was kind of intrigued about the idea of Kraven versus a chameleon sequel. Slightly intrigued, already knowing that I'm not getting that. I could have thought that this might have been a better movie if we got that in this movie and have brother against brother. Because because that's where they're kind of framing it, in the sense of like Kraven's father, Dimitri's father, favors Kraven. Kraven and wanted to turn his boys into these warriors, and we are the predators to all these prey. And he views Dimitri as a disappointment. He owns this kind of nightclub that, really, his father really owns it at that point. He's kind of the crooner there that can mimic all the famous crooners of yesteryear. And Kraven goes off and disappears, but keeps on coming back and visiting Dimitri. And Dimitri, do we ever really figure out, did he kind of play Kraven to do what he needed to do? Like, it's one of those, like, saying, I'm not sure if I'm totally buying if he is or isn't playing Kraven.
When we found out that the Rhino was going after Kraven because he was manipulated by Kraven's father, I thought we were going to find out he was manipulated by Dimitri. That's what I thought we were going to find out.
Yeah.
And so, okay, fine. You got me there. Like, you got me a little surprised on that one. I thought the whole time that Dimitri was playing up his weakness, for lack of a better term, a little much. And so I thought there was that he was hiding something, and he clearly wasn't. But the way that Kraven finally got his revenge or destroyed his father was
funny. I laughed.
It was amusing. There was only a couple moments that I really thought were funny.
The bear
and that
saying,
was
come
one.
on.
Yeah, he takes his bullets and shotgun shells, and he sets them up for a bear to come after him. But again, it's like you said, is he Aquaman? Like, how did he get the bear to do that exact time? Or how did he get? What was the animal that made the circle? Help me out. That ran in the circle that encased him and the Rhino. Wildebeest or something.
The wildebeest. Yeah, I think so.
How did he control them that way to get them to?
I know, yeah.
Fine, we'll just roll with it. But it's certainly not the most ridiculous thing. But it did come out with the bear moment, and the bear moment almost made all the other goofy times of him and the animals worth it.
All right, let's take our next ad break because I want to get into something regarding this rating of the movie.
Okay.
So, listeners, as these ads keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. Can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. This movie is rated R. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is outside of the sequence where, we get some him hunting the mobsters and things like that. The most brutal sequence comes where him and Calypso towards the end of the movie are getting kind of attacked by, I'm just gonna say Rhino's men.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is one of the tamest R-rated movies when it comes to violence.
I can't argue that. The
Deadpool
movie,
and Wolverine
they
really used their R rating. This did not.
It does bring to mind a criticism that I had of the Harley Quinn movie, where it was rated R, but they didn't really use their R rating.
Nope.
And so they had all the negatives of a rated R movie, mainly hindering what the size of your potential audience, and none of the pros of what you can do with it. And well, maybe I don't think this was quite as egregious as Harley Quinn was. It was in the ballpark. They were in the same book. They were maybe just in different chapters of the same book. Like they were close. And there was a couple times, he had like a bear trap or something he threw on some guy's face. That was pretty gnarly. Okay, but it just didn't feel like there was enough of it for what this character was supposed to be. And I remember seeing or hearing reviews and people who saw early footage and stuff talk about like how violent the beginning of the movie was and how violent this was going to be. And yeah, okay, he rips that like saber-toothed tiger or whatever it was. It wasn't a saber-toothed tiger, but whatever it was, like off of that carpet and then like that tooth and stabs that dude with it. That was vicious, if you will. But it just they could have taken out one or two F-bombs because they didn't have very many.
Yeah. Oh, they had a lot of them in Russian.
Well, true. Taken out a little bit of blood. And they could have gotten a PG-13 and maybe had a shot at a bigger audience. Now, you still have to deliver. Word of mouth is still going to crush this movie's soul, but because that wasn't going to make the movie a good movie.
It's supposed to be the feel-good movie of the Christmas season.
I know. Ridiculous. Absolutely
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
All the game echoes that said this could have been completely a very fine, hard PG-13 movie.
Yeah. Yeah. As a hard PG-13 is a great way to describe what it should have been.
And I don't want to misconstrue in the sense of like I'm criticizing this movie because I didn't get the movie I wanted. No, I knew what they were going with and what they attempted. The problem with these movies is, I said, bad writing, but also trying to create something that they're trying to mold a universe that they haven't been able to mold together. They have all these separate pieces out there. And again, you can make these movies without Spider-Man. You're going to have Spider-Man eventually. And I was intrigued at the idea of having a villains universe, but these movies became comical. And at least, the one movie that embraced it, Venom, did the best. Venom embraced what it was and doubled down on it, and it continued to be successful. The rest of these movies tried to make themselves something that they weren't, people realized, and the ratings and the box office show.
So most of us, I know Chris, and I assume most listeners, if not all of them, understand that Sony has to have every X number of years has to have a movie of Spider-Man related movie from their Marvel list in production, and then within another year or two, every X number of years, they have to have one released. I don't know, and I'm going to presume that the Spider-Man MCU movies don't count towards those. I don't know that to be true, and nobody who has ever talked to Amy Pascal or Kevin Feige has asked that question and even gotten a BS answer out of them. Like, I've never seen someone even ask, and they may not answer it, but I'm like, please, somebody just ask this question. Mm-hmm. But regardless of whether or not those count, the Venom movies, which have been financially successful, certainly count. The Spider-Verse movies certainly count.
Yeah. Because again, proves my point. They know what those movies are. They embrace what the concepts of those movies are.
They didn't need, like, Fan Four Stick, right? The 2015 Fantastic Four movie was basically put out there to keep the Fantastic Four rights. They didn't need Kraven or Morbius or Madam Web to keep the rights to the 900 or whatever the number is Spider-Man characters that they have. They didn't need those. The Venom movies alone accounted for that stuff.
Yeah.
And so plus you had the Spider-Verse movies in there, which unless there's a call out for animation versus live action, which I've never heard of there being one, you have those movies as well. And so they were covered. They were good. They didn't need to do this. And I know like people are like, "Oh, it's finally over. The universe is done," cuz it came out this week before Kraven released that the Sony universe of Marvel characters, or the Sony, well, for a while the Sony Pictures universe
SPUMC
of Marvel characters was done. Great. And it also says for now. And
Yeah.
they're going to have to release something at some point, unless Marvel's willing to like put a hold on that contract.
And the way they go about that is, one, we heard it supposedly, rumors that we believe with what stuff has been put out from the Wrap, is that the CCXP showing of it, the big surprise showing, had barely anyone in the theater.
I'm sure people left when they found out what it was.
Yeah, there's that too. So they're, like, you're right, they're going to come back and figure out something. And the first thing you need to do, you don't need to create, like, I know James Gunn, and this is the usual kind of bringing up James Gunn and DC on Marvel Alliance. The idea that, yes, you can create a universe, a connected universe, and don't have to have every single thing connected to each other doing that. Like, you can create single projects and build around characters and just happen to be in the same universe. And when it makes sense, yeah, you can have a team up. Like, you can do a Sinister Six movie against Venom.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, very easily.
Yeah.
You can make Venom your Spider-Man at that point. That is plausible. But now that you've kind of tainted it, and I've said before, and you've heard me and Travis Snell say this attempt has damaged the Marvel brand. Plain and simple. It is damaged. It's not damaged in the sense of, people are gonna like not come out to the Marvel movies. No, it's damaged the Marvel brand in the sense of, like, these were the general audience does not understand the difference.
They don't. So people who saw all 4 Marvel movies this year, very realistically, probably only liked one of them. Maybe they liked 2. Maybe they also liked Venom.
Yeah.
So let's give them that one. So 2 out of 4. That's not a good hit rate. It's not a good hit rate. So I'm coming around on this. They're damaging the Marvel brand. I'm with you. I'm on board with that. They are. Now, that said, Marvel doesn't have a case because every time Sony puts out a movie, I genuinely don't believe Marvel has some sort of legal case to say Sony is damaging their brand willfully or anything like that. Sony's not going to sell because Sony could command so much more money for Spider-Man is worth more to Sony, those rights are, than what they are to Marvel, especially as long as they're working together.
License is where they're going to live and breathe with this. Licensing the product until they find a point where Marvel's done with Spider-Man proper.
And as long as they keep pumping out MCU related Spider-Man movies and they have this 3/4 of the box office on those, that alone is going to give them enough money to do the bare minimum of what they have to do to fully keep the license rights. If we get a Venom every 5 years or whatever it is, fine, because they're making so much money from the MCU movies.
Yep.
That they don't need this. Like, one of those MCU movies made more than not all the Venom movies, but the other 3.
Yeah. And, I want these movies to be done well because, again, we've said it before. When these movies do well, the rising tides rises all ships.
And we want it, not even just for Marvel, but comic book movies in general. Yeah. DC's got a brand new universe. Technically it started with Creature Commandos, but as far as live action theatrical goes, starting next year, and we want it to do well. Side note, Creature Commandos is pretty cool. You should watch it if you haven't.
It's completely fun. You can't watch with your kids. Stop that.
No, do not watch with your kid. That's rated R.
Yeah.
And then so
that is how you do rated R. And even when going back to the whole rated R, like, I don't need it gross out. I don't need to be horror. But the way they were promoting it in the trailers and the way they were talking about it, it's gonna be a hard R thing. No, it wasn't. Again, I didn't need gross out. I didn't need slasher. When I see a movie saying Kraven the Hunter, going after mobsters, things like that, despite my problems with saying Kraven the Hunter and we're just hunting mobsters instead of going after a big game, yeah, you really didn't do it. I get more R-rated from watching The Penguin. You
also get better writing and better directing from watching The Penguin.
My point. And so all in all, like when we get to the end of the movie and we flash forward like a year later, and Dimitri is basically becoming his father, even though he hated him at that point, and he calls out Kraven's like, "Well, you're basically like your father too, just in a different way." He's like, "No, I'm not. Yes, you are." And okay, he gets to take over. Like I said, I was kind of intrigued by it, but I just left this movie feeling I'm just disappointed by the potential. I went in with low expectations. I said, please, I go into movies as your former co-host of Fans Without Border would say, I agree with this whole idea. Not prove to me you're good, prove to me you're bad. I want to like this movie. Please, I want to like this movie. And then time after time, I had just kept on disappointing and disappointing and disappointing me. Not because I didn't get what I wanted, just because I wanted it to do well. And it just kept on just saying, and when it comes down to it, I've seen people who said they like it, just not my tempo. Not my tempo. Again, good for you all that like it. This is not the movie for me.
And it was fine. I wasn't overly disappointed because the things that would have disappointed me, I already knew about going in.
Yeah.
And I already expected going in. So, I don't know. I don't have much more to say on this movie.
Yeah.
I won't lie.
So, no post credits. No post credits, thank God. Because that would have been... I have a feeling this has to do with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
We're hoping it. I was hoping, maybe some more.
Oh, we did, real quick, the foreigner character who was fine. I got tired of him counting, but whatever. He hit Kraven.
Quicksilver?
Yeah, I guess. He hit Kraven with this serum that like made him see his worst fear. So Scarecrow Light, I guess. And of course it was all spiders. Like, that's the only real nod. I mean, other than that, you see the Daily Bugle, real nod. I'm like, okay, I guess we got to get something in there that says Spider-Man.
That again sounds like a producer executive note saying, hey, we need to get some sort of Daily Bugle in here.
It does. So, all right. Anyway, okay. Now I'm done.
So we know we've said before, they've said that this is the end of the current iteration of Sony's attempt at they're going to focus right now on Spider-Verse, working with MCU on Spider-Man 4 and Spider-Man Noir. We're noticing a trend here. Spider-Man. They do have access to all these other characters. What can they do differently, Brent, to recapture and repair the damage they've done to their own attempt at this?
I mean, if I knew that question, I'd have a different job. The answer to that question, I'd have a different job. But number one is time. I feel like they need to give the maximum amount of time that they can do between movies, where they get to retain the rights or whatever to all their license. They have Spider-Man, the third Spider-Verse movie coming out. That should be able to buy them more time. Use that time. I don't know if any of these characters are going to show up in Secret Wars. If they do, I hope it's just Venom, because despite all the problems I have with the Venom movies, he is overall the best character among them. Honestly, what can they do? Try and get Marvel to team up with them. And when people like Ryan Coogler want to use Kraven in Black Panther, you let them. You don't squash it. You let it happen.
Yeah,
you know,
we need to rebuild these characters from where they used to be. Kraven is not, in my opinion, a top 10 villain. I think I like Kraven's Last Hunt. I think he's a good, like, B-list Spider-Man character. He is not A-list in my opinion, despite Kraven's Last Hunt. I just don't consider him that level. I think there are other characters that rise to that level. But there needs to be some repair work done to a lot of these characters. Repair
work, and again, if they can get it to work out with their deals. Like Marvel at one point wanted to use Kraven, like I said, Coogler in Black Panther.
Yeah,
that could have been cool. There was talks of Kraven being a part of No Way Home. Let those kind of things happen.
Yeah.
Instead of saying no, we're not going to do that, so we can have this garbage. And garbage is probably harsh, but you know what I mean.
I was about to say that's harsh for you.
It's just that's the kind of stuff they need to. They need to just focus. They need to spend more time on the writing and studio interference. Whatever. Studios' jobs is literally to interfere. Like their job is to give notes and be a part of it. So fine. I'm not mad at them for doing their job. I'm mad at them for doing their job poorly. And sometimes those studio notes are get out of the way and let the director do it because his idea is better than ours. Not always, but sometimes that is the best thing to do. Other times, studio notes are a good thing. Just they need to take some more time and really hammer out the scripts and have a plan and know what they're going to do instead of just throwing it at the wall to see what sticks. And if they either make these movies or don't, they don't need to all be huge, giant $200 million movies. I'm not saying that. Take the Venom approach, go like the Venom 1 approach box or financial wise, and look for those $50 million movies, $40 to $50 million movies. You could go a little high. The budget for Kraven, and part of this was actually because of COVID, but it went from like 90 to 110 million. You didn't need to go that high for a character with those powers. You just didn't. So those are things I would start with at least. But they need, and frankly, they need to give a chance to some different people in charge. I'm not saying fire Amy Pascal. She has done a lot of great things for Spider-Man, but unfortunately, most of that has been Spider-Man and not the other characters.
Yeah, and my thing is, I'll stick with it again. Writers, if you want these movies to be better, get some better writers.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you have to get the best of the best in business. There are still some great up and comers that deserve a chance, that have a take at that point. Have respect. It's a difference between. I'll say this. I don't need to have page to screen. I have the comic books. I know what the comic books say. Do I want to see these characters on screen? Yes. Do I want to see tips of the hat and basic ideas of the characters to be still present? Yes. But I don't feel the writers that currently have done this have respect for these characters to the point where we're getting the quality product. And you put out quality. You make people want to have to see this in theaters. You have to have a good script. As All in the Game just echoed it. Yes, you have to have a script. And the writers they've gotten, especially when you start getting writers that just have not had a good track record, you get what you pay for. And that's what it is. And I don't wish ill will on any of these writers. They put out the product they did, and they got paid for it, and great for them. Hopefully this doesn't damage their careers with the reception of it. The actors that have been there, they're pretty much 95% of these actors and actresses are way better than what they showed and or they understood the assignment. That's not the problem. Pay the writers to do a better job, put out a better quality product, and you do this. I'm with you. I can't recommend anyone needing to see this in theaters. You don't have to. You don't need to see Kraven the Hunter in theaters. You can wait for streaming, and even then, you don't need to jump at it as soon as it comes out. It's just getting down the ratings for me. It's a 1.5 for me. And the only reason that is because I actually sometimes enjoyed the action sequences, and it became more of a comedy to me than anything else.
I should have kept notes of what I've rated some of the other movies that we've done on here because I frankly don't remember where this compared. I'm giving it a 3. I don't know where that compared to, say, Madam Web, which I thought was worse, or Morbius, which I put this right next to. I technically slided just a little bit above because I like the action a little bit more in this than I did in Morbius, but that's really all it came down to. But I don't remember what I gave those, so maybe it doesn't line up with what I gave those. So I guess if someone wants to go back to those and fact check me, that's fine. But I'm going with 3 for now. It's the entire universe is a disappointment to me.
Yeah. For me, this is where it ranks. It is right above Madam Web. Madam Web is still the lowest one at that point. It is right above Madam Web. And it's one I'll never need to revisit again. Morbius, out of this universe, next to Venom, I had a better time with Morbius. haven't seen it since I first saw it.
No.
But I look back on it saying, you know what? I stick with what you said, Brent. It's fine. It's the better of the bunch next to Venom. And as I said before, Venom at least understood what it was, doubled down on it, and continued to focus on what it was. And guess what? The audience responded well. No one can say the entire Sony attempt at this was a complete and utter failure because Venom exists in the box office shows. Everything else,
collectively, they made money. As
you had half the movies do well, the other half of it terrible.
So my rankings, well, like you, I have every movie with Spider-Man in the title above these other Sony ones. Yeah. And then basically it's Let There Be Carnage, which I liked more than most people. I'm not saying I liked it, just more than most people. Followed by Kraven. But the first Venom movie was incredibly disappointing to me. And I have softened on it. It's incredibly disappointing. The Last Dance was horrible. Madam Web was god-awful. And like
God,
I
we
already
started
said,
the year
Morbius
with Madam Web. Ooh.
Yeah, no, this has been a rough year for Sony Marvel movies, of course. Live action Marvel Studios content I've been much happier with. Echo, Agatha, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Of course, we all had all those this year. And for live action, yes, Echo is this year. A lot of people forget that, but it was back in January. But
and again, it's like you said, it's disappointing that this universe couldn't find its footing outside of Venom.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
Sony's Sony universe of Spider-Man villains. We wish you well. We're sorry it didn't work out.
No, we're not.
We look forward to your next attempt at this.
No, we don't.
I do, because I actually want to see him actually do well.
If they're going to make another Spider-Man universe, put Spider-Man in it.
Well, we know what the problems are with that right now.
Yeah.
So, but all right, so that is our spoiler review of Kraven. So, this is Brent's last show for a bit. So, Brent, tell people how they can follow you since they won't be seeing you live for a bit.
Yeah, at Brentech at Brentech.com. Just look, and I have my name set to Brentech Prime on Blue Sky. If you want me to actually converse, that is the best place to do it. So, for now, I would say just go there. And you know what? It's kind of like back when Twitter was more fun. So
yes,
eventually it'll get ruined because all social media does. But for now, it's
does.
more fun. So I would encourage you to check it out.
All right. You can follow me on all the socials at Chris Balga. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marble8 Podcast. You can email the show at marblelinespodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GOA Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions. DMs are open across the board. Continue to rate and review the Marble Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever platform you listen to. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Dan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, post-credits discussion tonight. We got a 1-2 punch with this. One we were like, okay, not really hugely newsworthy, but nice to see some bigger trades saying this. Another one saying, oh, okay, nice 1-2 punch. We have Chris Evans, Haley Atwell, according to Deadline, returning to the MCU right now, at least in Avengers Doomsday.
And everyone's like, oh my gosh, Marvel's so scared they're bringing back Chris Evans. Did anybody seriously think they weren't going to bring him back as Steve Rogers? Is this really surprising to anyone? I pretty much thought since Endgame ended, we'll see him again. We'll see him again. That's
this. I'm
just glad to see it's confirmed. I'm glad to see it's confirmed.
Well, it's confirmed through Deadline. Confirmed from Deadline.
Sure, confirmed through Deadline. Not official, just through Deadline. You're right. It has been rumored for a long time, and I know some people thought that ultimately it was the Deadpool and Wolverine joke, which was something I love that they did. I was really hoping we would see him portray the Human Torch again. And that credit scene is phenomenal. One of my favorites. Mm-hmm. The one that is a bigger surprise to me is Haley Atwell. Now, we know she's been a part of it by doing the Agent Carter stuff for What If. She's been voicing that character, and of course, she showed up in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yep.
Everything I saw today, which all regurgitated the Deadline stuff, was she's coming back as Agent Carter.
Yes, that's what the deadline article says.
I'll take it. I would
Yeah.
like to see Captain Carter, but that's fine. You know, getting the two of them back together, that's totally cool with me.
Well, the other interesting part about this, and it's kind of buried out there within the beginning of the article, is Deadline was first to report in 2021 that Marvel and Evans were discussing a return in some form. And the belief was that Atla was also part of that plan to potentially return for a standalone movie. A story for that film could not get nailed down, but in recent months, both sides saw the new Avengers film with a perfect time. So this goes back to when years ago that Deadline did report that Evan was coming back. However, they were very cagey about in what kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
So this sounds like they are ready to say that that role was going to be another Captain America standalone movie, probably set wherever, but couldn't nail down where it was. Probably maybe Steve with Agent Carter in the post, Infinity War where he's in the past. Like, what was he doing? Is my guess.
Sure. And you know what? If he is going to be involved, even if it was animated, could we get a little miniseries of him putting back the stones? I'd like to see it. I'd like to see.
I'd like to see him talk with Red Skull.
That's the one I most want to see, but I'd be curious about them all. And it's just, I'm happy he's coming back. Do I want Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie to have his time as Captain America? I do. All in the Game wants to know if we're worried about the new Avengers team in Doomsday. Are we worried about a new Avengers team in Doomsday with there's only 18 months away from that, not having enough time for the audience to get to know them? I do think that's a little bit of an issue. I do.
Wait a minute, there's a new Avengers team? When? Where?
Allegedly.
How?
But the audience has had an opportunity to presumably meet every character who's going to be a part of it, but they won't know them as well as we knew the original group. They're not going to know them that well.
Yes.
But I mean, even the original group, Iron Man's the only one with multiple appearances before they came together. So now that I say it, it's really not that different than what it was.
It's not going to be that different. And I think also in the sense of they could also use that to their advantage in the sense of how Doom, as I said, when Kang was supposed to be the villain, that's how they're going to get beat very badly and lose very badly in Doomsday, that they're not functioning well. They don't know. They're all out for themselves. They don't function well as a team. Some may follow Cap at Sam Wilson. Many won't. And they're not going to function well, and that's how Doctor Doom is going to beat them and beat them badly. And that's part of it. So you're right to bring up that worry, but Brent's right. That was not a team in the Avengers, but they were able to come together to rally around together to the point. This team's probably not going to rally as well as they should. And that's going to be the lesson learned.
Like, that'll be part of it. Like, they won't be as good of a team. But a lot of the characters, people will know. Like, Anthony Mackie is not new, right? We know him. Yeah. Yelena, by the time we get to Thunderbolts is Yelena's third appearance, right? We have Hawkeye, we have Black Widow, and then Thunderbolts. So if Florence Pugh's in Doomsday Wars or Doomsday or Secret Wars, then like we know her character better too. We've seen Kamala Khan several times. We've seen Monica several. Like, a lot of these characters have had more than one appearance. Shang-Chi, I'm looking at you. I don't know what. Yes, we have What If coming up, but a proper Shang-Chi live action sequel, that's still the one I want. But so I think the concern is legitimate, but I'm not overly worried about it.
What I will also say to the All in the Game's next comment saying, but by Infinity War, OG Avengers had already 2 Avengers movies. And here's to that question. That's Marvel's, and I've said this, and Brent, you've also said this as well. One of the biggest mistakes Marvel has made in this multiverse saga is not having an Avengers movie to end Phase 4 and end Phase 5.
I do agree with that. Yes, All in the Game. I do agree I feel like it's 2 different things. People would know him, people would be like him, people would be more attached if they had seen the Avengers. But the audience is still going to individually care about certain people. There's going to be people who they may not really know who the Red Guardian is because they skip Black Widow, but they really like Sam Wilson because they love Falcon and the Winter Soldier and they like his earlier appearances. And so the team up movies would help a lot. Phase 4 ended with Ant-Man, right?
No, it began.
No,
with
that Phase 4.
Phase 5 began with Ant-Man.
The what ended? What movie was before
Black
that?
Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, okay. You're right. Poor example though, because Black Panther is on a different level. But there was no team. There was no team up. Is ultimately what I'm getting at. This current phase is ending with Thunderbolts.
Yes.
They
Dark Avengers.
Probably. That's a team up movie at least. And it's a team up movie full of characters, with the exception of Bob, that we've seen at least one other time. And so, like, that is kind of our Avenger movie for this phase. And then obviously we're getting 2 proper Avengers movies in the third one.
So that's going to be the lesson I think Marvel is going to take from this, is that you have to, whatever this Avenger is going to be, that's probably they're going to be their biggest regret. We could have put together a team better. Instead, the era, the regime, that wasn't what they did. Now we've got to pick up the pieces and move forward with what we've got. So, rights to have those concerns. I'm still feeling confident that they're going to take it and land the ship. Maybe not be the best, but I think they're still going to be able to land the ship. So,
agreed.
But all right, Brent, we will see you when we see you next. Next week, David comes into the seat, and we will see what news comes. That'll be our episode before we get to the beginning of What If. So,
yep.
We look forward to maybe seeing you in the chat, Brent.
Yep.
All right, see y'all later.